How long was your wilderness season?
Um, 9 months. It was the majority of last year.
So the first, when did you start like admitting to yourself like that was what was happening? Like right after God like stopped you. When did you start being like, okay, I need to I need to admit what's happening, like it's real, like it's true, you know?
I think when I went home, so when everything first happened, I'd already actually planned a trip to come to Miami. I planned on getting on a flight that day regardless. Um, and I remember my sister was like, just go for the, because I was going to go for the weekend. She was like, what are you going for the weekend for? You're a free agent, bro. Cool out, just chill. She was like, you have a community in Miami. You have support in Miami. Just go. So it went from me being the girl with plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G to, oh my God, let's see what happens tomorrow. So I was in Miami for like a month and then I went home. Um, and I think that's when it was like, okay, I need to like face, not face what's going on, but it gave me more solitude to heal and to process. Yeah, so I'd probably say a month in is when I probably started started that journey because you also have to accept when something like it's the stages of grief or change that I was telling you about. Denial was a lot of it. Denial, anger, frustration, confusion, and then you ultimately get to acceptance, right? But the funny thing about that progression is that it's back and forth. It's not linear. So you can be denial, frustration, you can be in acceptance like in 3 weeks, and then the day after you'll go back to denial and frustration. Um, so that's what a lot of initially like looked for me. Um, I'll probably say after a month is when I like started to like, okay, this is something that I need to address and how am I going to deal with it?
Okay. After acceptance, when did you let people like in? Like when did you start like expressing to them, okay, this is really what's happening?
Um, I would say, I mean, a lot of people don't really know the story. And the reason they don't really know the story is because in that wilderness season, um, my my ears and my eyes became open to other things that God wanted me to do that I put on the back burner,
Okay.
you know? So I started, that's when I started Chocolate Doc, you know, the online medical like teaching because a lot of my friends have no idea about their bodies. Just with like normal conversation, I'm like, and that's one thing I really enjoyed in clinic, getting my patients to understand this whatever disease process is and what we're going to do about it. I just started doing that for fun, you know. I started my my global missions, global health missions ministry. So a lot of people actually don't know the story
Mm-hmm.
because of the fruit that came that was actively still been coming out while I was walking in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I would say my chosen family knew immediately because I talked to them and lean on them um, for pretty big decisions, um, and not once did they ever question me or make me feel less than or other. It was just incredibly supportive. And then my close friends, either they would call um, or maybe I'd text and reach out or whatever. I wasn't super vocal about it, if I'm being honest, because I was still processing everything that happened. Um, and one of the biggest things that I would say, I was still processing was that my worth was in it. And I didn't realize that I'd placed my worth in it. So when people would ask me, like, what are you up to, like now, like specifically in my career, instead of it being the standard cookie cutter, oh, I'm at this specific practice, blah, 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 it was more so, hey, yeah, I'm starting to do some global health work. I'm starting this medical online education platform. And I'm starting to maybe work freelance on my own for a bit. And it took a while for me to have, I would say, the internal confidence when I was saying those words. I might have said it with confidence externally because I just naturally have bass in my voice.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it is what it is. Um, simply because I had attached value to what the gold standard was, which was this cookie cutter format. But that's not going to work for me, right? So when people would actually ask me, mentors, etc., there was a part of me that would struggle when I would answer them, um, because I'm like, this isn't what you probably thought I'd end up doing, and it's not what I thought I would end up doing, and it's not what the standard is. But I know it's what I have to do, you know. And it's funny because when I started to get brave enough to be honest with them, one of them looked at me, and they're much older than me. He looked at me and he was like, "I'm proud of you," and I was like, "Excuse me, I'm proud of you." I was like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm 32, technically unemployed, just started a business that's not doing anything, and I live at home with my parents now. I'm waiting for this plot twist, Jesus. That's what I would say to myself. That's literally what I would say to myself. I'm waiting for this plot twist. But he's like, no, but you realize something that took me 10 years to realize. And unfortunately, what some never realize, or by the time they realize, they're like in their 60s, and it's too late, you know? I'm proud of you. And I was like, wow, that really marked me, because what, up until that point, what was considered valuable to the world externally, I didn't have at that specific point. So to hear someone validate me and the process that I was walking in, and taking my time with it, and the boldness that that took, was very comforting. And it's not to say I looked for validation from others, but for someone that is established in the field, an expert in the field, that really meant a lot to like hear.
And you started believing it too more.
Yeah, I can't say it hurt. I definitely can't say it hurt. It helped me walk more confident in this. I called it, like, I say it now, it's my wilderness season, but in that specific point, I didn't really know what to call it. So I was just like, I'm just a season of unknown. I literally don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. And I would laugh with my boyfriend and be like, yeah, well, his mercies are new every day. Like, yeah, let's see what happens today. You know? I don't have a plan. And that was the part that was very, like, jarring for me. And when I say a plan, meaning I don't have this like 14-step plan where I know exactly where it's going to end. God was like, no, you're done with that. You're going to live in obedience. And I was like, oh, I got to put my big girl pants on.
Yeah.
Like my true big girl pants on, like in terms of faith, to trust, to really, really trust Him. And that's when I discovered, like, that even though I've been a devout Christian for years, I had security in my plans. My security wasn't in God, it was in my plans. I'd pray over all my stuff, but I had all these plans, and a part B, part C, if that don't work out, I'm good. But when I had to just go on His plan, knowing that His plans for me are good, regardless of if I see it today or tomorrow, that's incredibly frightening, and obviously anxiety provoking for me. So I also had to kind of like be honest and deal with that, even like labeling it anxiety. But He's so good. He's so good because He's a redeemer, and it's not to say I wanted to sound like, oh yeah, and I'm on the other side and testimony blowing up, blah blah blah. Yeah, there's been some really amazing things that have transpired since, that we can talk about, and they wouldn't have happened without me walking and being a good steward in the wilderness season. Because you can be in a wilderness season and be lost forever.
Yeah. Were there any point where you wanted to like give up, just like look for like something in the field, like go back?
I looked at traditional jobs. I did. I was looking constantly, but none of them, all of them were like, no, that's literally what you just left. So like, what are we talking about? So that temptation wasn't there. The the desire or the quickness to find something was really early on, was really motivated by my insecurity in the situation. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
So that I just wanted to be that if someone asked me what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm faculty at this place, and blah, blah. I wanted that security again. I was like, no, no, you're not gonna get that. So you can choose to believe in me and believe that what I say is good and the plans I have for you are good, or you can go back to a cycle that leaves you empty. And I knew I couldn't do that. That would be so dumb. That would be so dumb. So yeah. Um, yeah.
This might be an ignorant question, but did you feel more at peace in your wilderness season than when you were working?
1,000%. Are you kidding me? 1,000%. It was night and day. So I went from, it's so funny because there are all these things I couldn't process when it was happening because everything was just moving like a mile a minute. But then when I had to sit down and process, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember reading an article. And I thought I was hip, whatever. I remember reading an article, again, didn't have time to read things that were not strictly like related to procedure and stuff like that. But I remember reading an article on gaslighting. And like an article on specifically gaslighting, also like in the medical community, what that looks like and different people's experiences. And I was like, oh my God. I remember sitting at the dining table having this like massive revelation, like, oh my God, that was me. That's crazy. That was me. How did I not know that or see that? I forgot your question. I'm so sorry.
I asked about the peace that you were feeling.
Oh, yeah. So when something's on fire, you know, oh, okay. Do you know that GIF where it's the dog sitting in the living room with a small circle table? It's a round table. You haven't seen that?
No.
So it's a dog and he's sitting on a table just like this. Imagine it's a mug right here and he sips his cup and he says, "This is fine. This is fine." The entire room around him is on
Oh
fire.
yeah, I've seen this. Okay, yes.
Yes. That was
Mm-hmm.
that was me. 100%. That was me. Um, yeah, 100%. And then when the fire was finally put out, and I got to walk outside the room, and then think about my eyes actually being open into the fire that was there. Come on now. I felt safe, secure. Obviously, did that help? That was with my parents? Yeah, absolutely. But it was a sense and security from also God. Be like, you don't need to know what's next. It's cool. It's cool. I got you. And God's so gracious in that because in that wilderness season, you can process so many things. Like Jesus in itself, it wasn't like he walked into the wilderness and he was like, okay, God, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready. Dale is what I came here for. He was like, no, please. Find the next guy. Just make another son, you know? He went through all these complex emotions and I did as well. But I vividly remember this is after like a little while waking up in my bed at my parents' house. And it sounds similar to this. You probably can't hear it on the recording, but it's just like birds outside. And I look outside the window and just greenery. It's a bunch of greenery where they are. And just a bunch of natural light. Marcella. I had that every morning I woke up. You know? Yeah. I just got so used to functioning in dysfunction that I didn't know that that was supposed to be reality when you woke up. And it's kind of hard because Many people might not get out that cycle. Many people might not get off the hamster wheel. And that's sad. That's real sad. So it does require a lot of bravery to step out. But if God's your anchor, you're not going to drown. So I used to have this analogy. For some reason, I'm going through something. I see a lot of things. Like, if someone speaks, I see it, and like I have a vision of it. And sometimes if God wants to tell me something, he'll show me in a vision versus like physically telling me. So years back when I was going through like a difficult time, I had the vision of me being in the ocean, right? And it was when that song Oceans by Hillsong was really popular. I just had the vision of me being in the ocean. I couldn't see the land. And I had to grapple with years back that was okay. Cool. I got another vision of the ocean this time. And instead, the beginning was like me drowning, right? And then me finally, and the funny part was that when I was drowning, I was like fighting, like, you're trying to you're putting so much energy and so much tension to stop the drowning. That when I finally stayed still, I was like, okay, I'm in the ocean. I'm back in the ocean. And I can't see the land. Is that okay? Because innately me is like, that's not okay. I need to figure out what latitude coordinates I'm at, what longitude, latitude coordinates I'm at, so I can fire up a smoke signal so that the plane can come and save me, and then it can drop me off at this place. No. That leads to drowning again. So I got that vision again of me just, I wouldn't even say it's swimming. I'm just more so like gliding, which is funny because I can't tread water. No, I can tread water, but like I can't like float on my back. But that's kind of like the vibe that I'm getting. And the funny part is, I accepted. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's okay that I can't see the land. I'm okay with that, God. You're controlling this. And the funny part was, we were in a season of prayer and fasting in August. And again, God gives me like these visions. And then now I see, at that time, I think when it happened, my boyfriend was there, and I told him, I was like, yo, there's a flood coming. I saw massive waves. And I'm in it. But I'm not dying. I'm not even like jarred. And something in my spirit was just like, get ready. There's a flood coming. And I was like, okay. I don't need to dissect it. I'm gonna just obey. So yeah, I don't know how we got here, but I'm now in that whatever God truly wants for me is gonna be for me, and arriving to a place of it being okay for me because He's defining my value, He's defining my worth, despite all of my accolades. That's the biggest part. Yeah.
My heart is exploding right now. I have no idea. I'm just like, wow. I think I don't know if I'm gonna share this on that, but like, you come from Nigeria, and I think what you mentioned at first when we started talking was the fact that you had to adjust coming here, and it's as if you had to adjust again, like your entire life, like your entire perspective.
Oh, 1,000%. Wow. That's so good. That's so good that you say that. Because I did have to step into another world, a world that I actually didn't even think existed, that I felt like maybe I had to kind of forge a path on my own. But God sent me so many allies, you know? And it's not to say I have it all figured out, but it definitely took an adjustment. And I would say the ego of me when I'm a toddler or whatever, what's that age? A late adolescent? Early adolescent? Early adolescence. The ego of early adolescence versus the ego now, two completely different things.
Yeah.
So being willing to wrestle that, I think that was the test. Because sometimes I say to people, and it's also from like what I learned from my experiences, but a lot of times, whatever's happened in the physical, that's not the thing.
It's internal.
Yeah, you need to pray about whatever is actually supposed to be pruned or developed in this season. So if it's you lost your job or you got kicked out your house, whatever disorienting thing has happened, yeah, that is unfortunate. And yes, we have to find a practical way to amend that. But that's not the battle. That's not the battle. I believe that God does redeem everything and he can get glory for everything, and he is in everything if you choose wisely. If that makes sense. It would be very silly of me to be empty and then walk back into something that's going to make me empty again, right? And I think that could be applied for any and everything. So adjusting, but also realizing what weeds need to be pruned. And that is an incredibly humbling process, my guy. Like, incredibly humbling, but the result is super, super beautiful.
When you first mentioned the book Anonymous, what I thought was like, this is about humility. So I think he was really trying to make you humble.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. If you don't get humility when it's just you and God, you're going to be destroyed when that's polluted by the applause of man, the attention or authority that the world can quote unquote give you. Yeah.
Did you turn off Instagram during that time? No,
I didn't. For me, Instagram wasn't the medical community is actually very big on Twitter.
Okay.
There are doctors on Instagram, but it's nowhere near what it is on Twitter. So I did step away from Twitter for a bit, but I had honestly, I hadn't been super active on Twitter just because everything had gotten so busy towards the end of my training, et cetera, et cetera. So that wasn't like super hard, but there are times where I would get tempted to be like, oh, I wonder what so-and-so's up to, or like what's, again, what the world's considering successful, let me go look at it. But I was like, no, because it'd be triggering.
So you stopped the articles too? Like
What?
reading the articles?
Oh no, never that. So if anything, I turned all that up, just because I wasn't physically doing surgery on people, it doesn't mean that I wasn't getting mentally stimulated. And also, I wanted to stay sharp because I knew obviously it was going to look different. It's just not I wasn't going to walk away completely, right? It was just going to look different. So I continued to study. I continued to read articles. I did, we call it CME, Continuing Medical Education. I did all that every week, every Monday. I had like a time block set up. And then also, I was fortunate enough to go to Tanzania on my first mission trip or whatever. And there, I did surgeries, etc. Taught a bunch of fellows who are honestly making an incredible impact, not only in Tanzania, but across Africa, which is also incredibly humbling to be part of. So I was still practicing. It just looked completely different. Completely different. And it's something that's funny is that I'd wanted to do for a long time, but I didn't have the room. Right? God's like, okay, let's just kick it all out. You got room now. You got time. Like, we got time today, Yeah.
You're amazing. Okay, the global outreach, how did that start? Was that when you went to Tanzania? Or?
Yeah, so this is probably about let's say three months in.
Again, I was very active in the academic community, so it's our first conference that we're having in person since the pandemic. So I go, and naturally that's going to come with a lot of different types of reunions. Some I was a bit antsy about, others, whatever. So I have some really great colleagues that are my same level across the country. So we all go to dinner one night, and one of them looks at me, and he's like, I don't care what happened. I don't care what's going on. You need to come to Tanzania. That's literally what he said, and I was like, I know I've been wanting to go, because I was actually supposed to go 2020, but then the pandemic shut all our plans off, right? And I was like, I've been wanting to go. I don't know if it's the right time, because now at this point, that's what I'm saying. It's not really the physical thing that happens. There was an internal battle happening in a sense of like, am I good enough? Is there anything I can offer? There's much more qualified people out there. Could I be of help? Just all of these questions that are going in my brain. And he's like, trust me, you're gonna go, and you'll remember why you did this in the first place. And he was like, it might just lessen some of the noise. That's literally what he said. So I apply for a grant. I get the grant, which is like insane. And then he's like, oh, perfect. We need you there in 2 weeks. And I was like, excuse me, what? So everything happened like incredibly fast. But it was me being willing to be like, okay, yeah, I hear you. I'll check it out, right? And normally when people go, they go with teams. So I didn't have a team. I'm just gonna go with myself and figure it out. And that was the other part. That was the other layer to it. I'm like, am I gonna figure it out? You know? But I'm telling you, dude, like, God's so good. I walked in there. So technically when you go as an attending, you are basically the boss. You cover all the cases in the clinic, and you're teaching the fellows so that they can now, when they graduate, now provide the service into smaller community hospitals in Tanzania, right? So that was the part I was afraid of. Like, man, do I have something to offer in terms of teaching them? I'm telling you, I walked into that room. It was like I was in a hospital yesterday. And at that point, I hadn't been in the hospital in months. And then we go, we do our procedures, and I'm teaching, I'm imparting, like whatever. And it's so incredibly smooth. The impact and the history that we made, I was just like, God, you're so good. Like, the first thing I did was apologize. I apologized because I was like, I'm so sorry I doubted you. I'm so sorry that I let the world define my value, that I let that get polluted. I'm so sorry. I have so much to offer. It doesn't need to look like the traditional thing, and that's okay. And then I went from being sorrowful into just being incredibly grateful for the opportunity. Yeah, we did some historical cases there, and it was just so amazing to be part of. And I still talk to them every day. One of them, she's on my fridge there. Yeah, I'm going back this year, just not sure if it's going to be Tanzania. They're opening up a new program in Rwanda or Uganda, maybe Nigeria. So the future is bright.
You haven't been back since you were 8, Nigeria?
Oh no,
yeah.
I've been back a ton. I haven't been to Nigeria specifically. I haven't been in recent years though. I think the last time I was there was 2018, which is crazy because for a while I was going every year. But then, my responsibilities got crazy, and the pandemic didn't help anything, So, yeah, it would be really cool to get this training program done in Nigeria. I just have a bit more logistics to work through there.
How long would it be for?
The training program? Fellows would be 1 to 2 years, typically 2 years. And then, yeah.
Okay. So when these trainings happen, you go over there. Can you come back and forth, or do you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you can go back and forth. So everyone, we all go on like a volunteer basis, right? We're not being paid. So a lot of people will go for as long as they can. Some people that's a week. Some people that's 3-4 days because they try to make it like a vacation. Tanzania is such a beautiful country. My goodness, they try to combine work and play in that sense. Some people who go for a month if they can. I went for a little under 3 weeks, and it was fantastic. I didn't want to leave. I remember thinking, oh my God, it's a long time. So I should be by myself, you know. But I didn't want to leave. It was so great. So this pilot program, there's 2 attendings that are there all the time now. And the reason they're there all the time now is because they went through the program. So the first 2 years of the program, all the faculty was visiting faculty from around the entire world, India, Europe, Japan, here in the States, just really, really phenomenal. And those fellows end up being incredibly well trained. So now even if someone from the States or elsewhere is not able to visit, we've looked at the data, they're still able to keep the case flow and still be a service to the patients there. It's the largest tertiary hospital in the country. That basically means anything that needs to be solved that's beyond even remotely basic, they all get sent there. So we saw a lot of different cases, a lot of humbling things, women younger than us with cancer that here in the States would be completely avoidable just because we have access to like vaccines, right? So that stuff that you see is just incredibly humbling, but at the same time, it makes you better. It makes you better also because you don't have the luxury of waste. In this country, we have excess everything. Supersize me, like whatever. But you only have a certain amount of limited equipment. It's all donor based. I remember I brought a full suitcase of equipment that was donated, and that's how they kind of function, which is insane for an entire country if you think about it. But you make a difference, and it's a great time. And the fellows are so incredibly grateful, and they work really hard. So yeah.
What are the other foods that came from that wilderness season?
I kicked off your chocolate doc, like I told you about, which became the funniest thing because I was just starting it for fun, and then I would be like at a lounge, something incredibly normal or club, I don't club anymore, but let's say a lounge, and this girl, a random person, will walk up to me and be like, "Oh my God, can we talk about fibroids for a second?" She was like, I've really been watching all your stuff, and it's been motivating me. I think I want to go see my OBGYN, but I want to know all my options. I'm like, yes, that's perfect. I want you to know your options. We're talking about this on a Saturday at 11 p.m. to a complete stranger. Just seeing the impact of that has been really amazing. I'm on a hiatus right now, but I'm coming back pretty soon. Just in terms of trying to balance everything and being a good steward of my priorities. Your chocolate doc came out of that. My global health sector, my business kicked off with the Road to IR. That's the program that I went to Tanzania with.
Okay.
And we're hoping to expand that this year to include 3 other countries in Africa, which would be literally amazing. Because before that program, the first class graduated in 2021 or 2020, one of those 2 years. That was the first dedicated interventional radiology class in the entire continent of Africa. That's insane. That's literally insane. So just trying to translate some of the impact that we bring here in a minimally invasive way over there.
Yeah.
That's like literally that.